Should be on there right now.
Yeah.
We should be good now with
There we go.
week 3 of the NFL, where there were some decent ones, not great, but listen, the games were, some of them were, they came out like they were supposed to, like usual. Some were surprises, some were good games. It was just, I think this week there really wasn't that many blowouts, except for teams that
Right.
really just were going to get blown out anyway. But a couple surprises,
Yeah.
well, surprises when it comes to the spreadsheet. I mean, a lot of people, I'll say that a lot of the gambling lines, I didn't understand them. Like I didn't understand Falcons Giants. Like I love the Falcons, and for some reason I like the Bengals against the Steelers. I didn't think the Steelers would lose, but I thought the Bengals would play them. Um,
I thought the Steelers were going to actually have a way better game. Way better game.
yeah, and but we'll get into all that stuff. But we are here. We're live, week 3 of the NFL. A lot of fun. Did Oregon play Saturday?
Yeah, we beat Arizona. Tough third quarter. We had a really good first half. We were up like 24-10. Third quarter, they came back and made it like a one-score game. We ended up winning in the end like 41-23 though. So we ended up blowing them out, but it was a little bit scary towards the end there, but yeah.
Yeah, Georgia was up 35-0 after 7 minutes in the first quarter. So we were good.
And I got the
I
link
could
posted now, so
I could not believe that after literally 7 minutes, Georgia was up 35-0. It's sad because Vanderbilt is an SEC team, but they're really not. I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. It's really tough. I don't know what to think about it. But we got a couple people in here that are already saying hello. We got Matthew J. Evans, who reached out to me on Facebook. It was very nice for him to friend me on Facebook. He showed us a lot of love. So, Matthew, thank you very much. BT Whit Mason. I'm sad about the 49ers game. You must be a 49ers fan. UL says, Big Tuna, what's up, dude? Nothing, brother. What's going on with you? Jay Evans, rich, cool, and 4-0. Ducks, quack, quack. And then UNL says, that's what I thought. 35 seconds, too much time to leave Aaron Rodgers. That's what I said while I was watching the game.
Yeah.
There's no way you can leave him that much more. And, as much as people hate Chris Collinsworth, he nailed it on the head. He was like,
Thanks, Matthew J. Appreciate the love. Telling me I'm the man.
But no, he's a really nice dude. Like I said, man, he reached out to me, and it was like, fuck, all right. Like I did not expect that whatsoever. So it was very nice to hear a fan compliment us. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to talk about the Packer game once we get into it. So
absolutely.
I don't want to give it all right now, but once we get to it later, I can't wait.
And Matthew says, I actually like Collinsworth. He was actually my boss for a year. Chris Collinsworth signed my checks at Pro Football Focus. So he was he's the head of Pro Football Focus. So I got nothing bad to say about him. He just says the wrong stuff at the wrong time.
Yeah.
He just kind of, and the funny thing, his son sounds exactly like him.
Really?
Yeah, he went to Notre Dame, played football there, but now he's in broadcasting, just like his father. So, all right, you want to hop into these games here?
Yeah, let's do it. Week 3,
the first one is like, I could not believe it. I thought I was reading it wrong, where the Ravens beat the Lions with a 66-yard field goal. A 66-yard field goal. That is just, I mean, the record was what, 64?
I believe it was 64-65.
It was indoors, which is whatever, but still, the guy hit it in 6 yards.
To win the game.
To win the game. To win the game, which is just crazy. On the Ravens side, Lamar Jackson had 287 passing, 58 yards rushing. He had a touchdown passing, 1 interception. He was the leader in rushing. Latavius Murray and Devontae Freeman and Tyson Williams didn't do much. Mark Andrews and Sammy Watkins had decent days. Marquise Brown there, he dropped a few passes. That was a very weird game for him. On defense, I saw that Clark had sack, but nothing really great there. But like I said, Andrews played really good for the Ravens. On the Detroit Lions side, Jared Goff had 217 passing. Swift had a rushing touchdown. Williams had a rushing touchdown. And their leading receiver was actually Swift and Khalif Raymond there, a young guy for them. And on the other side, on the defense side, you had not much there either. Nothing crazy, but I'll let you take over from here. So go ahead.
I mean, that was a really big deal. Hollywood Brown dropping 3 potential touchdown passes. I mean, 2 of them, two of them were in the end zone. One of them could have been a touchdown pass with how fast that he is. But nevertheless, the Ravens still did get the win. It really didn't feel like it was that close of a game when I was watching it. It really felt like the Ravens had a lot of the control, but late in that game, or not Stafford, but Jared Goff kind of put something together a little bit, and Swift and Williams really did look good this game. They are one of the most underrated running back duos, I think, in football today. Lamar wasn't great, but he wasn't really terrible either.
Nope.
So, I mean, that's kind of hard to look at. It was just really, really weird game. Tucker actually missed a field goal in this game before drilling the 66-yarder. Nothing to really say about that other than he's the GOAT. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he's at least in my lifetime of watching football, Justin Tucker is the greatest kicker I've ever seen. Easily.
Well, I would disagree with Adam Vinatieri, but that's just because Adam Vinatieri had so many clutch kicks. But I don't think he really was. He was good when it came down to the clutch stuff, but when he never really kicked a 63-yarder or anything like that. I mean, I just remember, Janikowski for the Raiders used to, because he was just so fat, and he could put everything into it and stuff. But yeah, Tucker's unreal. He is just unreal. It's cool to see, guys like that, like kickers, be heroes, but that was just insane.
Yeah.
That's just insane.
That is literally crazy. I don't know how you can make a 66-yard field goal. And I didn't watch a lot of Vinatieri growing up. Like all those clutch kicks that we talk about him making, I was never watching football for those, because those were in the Super Bowl ones and the one against the Raiders in the snow game. Mm-hmm. I wasn't watching football during any of those. So
yeah.
That's why I say Tucker's the GOAT.
I mean, but Matthew did say Vinatieri, never had a 60-yard field goal to his knowledge. And I think he's right, and he did mention that Janikowski did he had a 72-yard field goal attempt. I remember that.
Wow.
And he just barely missed it too. I was like, wow, and it was in Denver, I think, because of the air, but still it was close.
Yeah.
It was that was one that probably would have never been broken if it,
Yeah.
But then again, who knows? But overall, Ravens win. The Lions, are they going to – you think they're going to turn it around at all?
Ever or anytime soon?
This year.
I think they're going to turn it around and end up getting some wins this season. I have a lot of faith in Dan Campbell as a coach in the future. As of right now, I don't think that they're going to be good at least this year, next year, or the year after. But if they stay patient, this team could eventually be that second team in the NFC North year in and year out. They've got a lot of potential. They've got a lot of youth. It's just right now they are really, really bad. But they almost won yesterday. They looked really good late in that game.
They almost came back against San Fran. They played the Packers tough the first half.
Yeah,
it's just I mean, with Jared Goff as your quarterback, it's I don't think you're in a bad shape. You know what I'm saying? So it's just we'll see. They'll move on. We'll see what happens.
I think it's
next game. Next game we got here is not two great teams right now, but Atlanta pulls off a last-second field goal to beat the Giants on Eli Manning Day, which is just brutal. That's just a brutal way to to support the guy that won you 2 Super Bowls. Let's go out and play like shit. And that's what it was. I as a gambler, I didn't gamble yesterday. I looked at a few games and I told people, I just think the Giants aren't going to play well against Atlanta. I just think Matt Ryan's too good to kind of take apart that defense, But overall, stats-wise, Matt Ryan had a decent game. I mean, he had 243 with 2 touchdowns. Mike Davis had 50 yards rushing. Patterson had over 100 all-purpose yards. Ridley had 60 yards. Pitt had 35. Let's see here. Lee Smith had a touchdown. He's a Raider guy, if anyone remembers him, Lee Smith. Let's see here. On defense here, nothing really anything. Dante Fowler had a sack.
Right.
So that was about it on the Atlanta side. On the New York Giants side, Daniel Jones had 266, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Saquon Barkley finally had a touchdown, so that was nice to see. 51 yards rushing. Galladay led the team in receiving yards. Evan Ingram was back, but he did fumble, turned over the ball. And on defense for them, Leonard Williams had a sack. And Jabril Peppers had 7. So nothing really crazy for them either. It was just kind of a normal game. I mean, it was 17-14. Both defenses didn't play too bad. They didn't allow a ton of yards. It was just a back and forth game but the thing is, Atlanta, if I remember correctly, Atlanta scored 10 unanswered points to win it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about this game is that, like, regardless of how close it was, because this was a close game, it really wasn't that good of a game. It was a really sloppy game. There was a lot of punts. I'm glad to see that Saquon is finally getting things going. Not only did he have a touchdown, but he had a few really good rushes throughout this game. And the big thing that you said that I really wanted to point out was Matt Ryan. By no stretch of the imagination has he been a bad quarterback ever since that MVP season and the Super Bowl loss. But the way he looked the other day, he looked really, really good, honestly, for the first time since winning the MVP. Not to say he absolutely lit it up, but he looked really sharp in the pocket. Just a really good game for Matt Ryan. I'm not sure if I said Matt Stafford, but I meant Matt Ryan. But the thing about the Giants is they're not lacking talent whatsoever. This is a really talented football team. I think what they're lacking most is discipline because, like I said, they're playing sloppy. They're not a bad team. They are playing really sloppy, and that's why they're 0-3 right now. But overall, lots of punts in this game, lots of sloppy football. Matt Ryan did look really good. Saquon's starting to get his thing back going or get it going again or whatever. Daniel Jones getting a little bit – I don't even know how to describe how I feel about Daniel Jones. I really don't think that he's the guy, but I don't think that he's played bad by any stretch of the imagination either. But we're just going to have to see with Daniel Jones.
It's, listen, the Giants are just going to disappoint. And New York teams right now are 0-6. Right. And that's rough. But the real New York team in Buffalo is 2-1. So it's just I feel bad for Giants fans. I feel bad for the Eli thing. I really do. I mean, you want to see the team win, with something like that, but it just to me, it just seems like unfortunately the Giants are they going to have to restart all over again? I really hope not.
I don't think that they should, and I don't think that they will. This year in the draft, I think Daniel Jones. I don't think he's the man. But I do think to his advantage, there aren't really that many great college quarterbacks right now. So there's no reason for the Giants to get one in the draft. Yeah. So I think the Giants team can be better for next year. And then if Daniel Jones disappoints and then there's some good quarterbacks coming out of the draft, then maybe they look to do that. But right now, I think that they're going to be fine. They just need to figure it out from a discipline standpoint because it's not a bad football team. It's really a discipline thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. And coaching. Stuff like that. I mean, he is a first-year coach, with Joe Judge and all that. It's just, hey, Falcons to me, I mean, they laid an egg against the Eagles, so it was just maybe week 1 jitters. They end up playing good against Tampa, and then they come into I just thought, I mean, they're the better team, in my opinion. Right. They have better weapons and, and all that. And that's the thing. That's the big thing. Saquon Barkley, I'm just saying they shouldn't have taken him at number 2.
Agreed.
And they paid Kenny Galladay way too much money.
Yes.
And it's just those kind of – and they drafted Evan Ingram when they didn't need Evan Ingram. And they barely use him. I mean, the guy used to be a catch he was a freak in college. Like weird, like he would catch every other pass. You know what I'm saying? But to me, it's just I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore when it comes to the Giants and their personnel. You know, it's tough to really figure out what they're thinking. But you know, just the third week, so maybe they'll turn around. You never know.
Yeah, we'll see.
Next game, we got the Saints going into Foxborough and beating the Patriots 28-13. You don't hear that very often. First back-to-back, first 0-2 start at home since 2000 for the Patriots, which just shows maybe not that they're bad this year, but how great they were for so long.
Right.
You know, and it's just they're making a new team. So just, you know, Jameis Winston really didn't have to do much. I mean, he got 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kamara had 89 yards rushing. Taysom Hill had a rushing touchdown. Callaway had a really good touchdown catch, in my opinion. Kamara had a receiving touchdown. Kenny Stills came out of nowhere to have a couple catches. On defense, Lattimore got himself an interception, as well as Jenkins and Williams. And you know that's the stats really don't look crazy good for the Saints. It was just, you know, they played the game very well. On the other side, Mac Jones threw 270, 1 passing touchdown, but 3 interceptions. Damian Harris only ran the ball 6 times for 14 yards. Mac Jones was their leading rusher with 28 yards. That ain't good. Kendrick Bourne had 96 yards and a passing touchdown. Myers had 98, 94 yards. He's a very underrated player, in my opinion. Myers is. And I hate to smile a little bit, but Aguilar, once again, does pretty much nothing. Another week with the Patriots where he could have been very good with the Raiders.
Right.
On the defensive side, Matt Judon had 2.5 sacks, which he's turned out to be a pretty good asset that they signed there. That's about it for the defensive side for the Patriots there. I just, you know, like Jonnu Smith had 1 catch for 4 yards and Hunter Henry had 5 catches for 36 yards. You know, I mean, Judon had the big sacks there, but I mean, they pay these guys big money and they're not really doing much. But then again, it's a rookie quarterback, so you can't be too hard on the team, but you're going to be because it's Belichick and his cocky shit and all that. So, you know.
Yeah. Mac Jones definitely looked like a rookie yesterday. And I know I try not to pick on rookie quarterbacks, but I definitely notice when a rookie quarterback is playing good and when a rookie quarterback is playing like a rookie quarterback. Mac Jones hasn't had a bad season overall, but the other day he threw the 3 picks, didn't look great. The Saints defense really did have him rattled big time. They were all over him big time. Jameis Winston looking much better from last week. We didn't see any ugly picks. We did see that one where he was falling down and threw it, and it was caught by his own team in the back of the end zone. That was kind of a weird touchdown pass, but that was pretty cool to see. And like you said, Taysom Hill getting the rushing touchdown. He's still a force as that Swiss Army knife. I also saw him throw a really good block early in the game. So, yeah, I mean, the Saints, they're a really confusing team right now because they dominated against the Packers in Jacksonville. They absolutely laid an egg against the Panthers. And, hey, maybe the Panthers really are that good. And then they go to Foxborough, and then they really – I don't want to say they blew out the Patriots, but they beat them by a pretty sizable margin. So the Saints are a really confusing team right now. The Patriots, I think they are a playoff team. Do I think they'll make the playoffs? I'm predicting that they won't, but I think that they can. But that's really all I have for this game. I mean, Jameis looks a lot better. Mac Jones, we're starting to see him look like a rookie. Sean Payton definitely had a good game coaching. But, yeah, I think that we'll see the Patriots turn it around and get some more wins later on in the season, though.
You got a couple comments here about the game. You know, they just said that, you know, the Matt J. Evans says, let's face it, the Patriots are rebuilding. On offense, they are. I think maybe on defense, they've got it pretty set up on defense, but they've always been like that on defense. Victor Bauer about the game says that, let's see here, Mac Jones. No, that was Panthers defense, not Patriots defense. That looked good, but the Saints had a great win over the Patriots, and then people are just saying, "What's up, Tuna?" Victor Bowers' Raiders, and all that. So we just want to say hello. Say hello to Nate S too. He's usually in here all the time. So what's up, Nate? But yeah, I mean, it's just listen. The Patriots aren't the Patriots right now, and that's okay because they will be sooner or later. It's just they've got a rookie quarterback and they've got a rebuilding offense. And
well, I mean, for 20 years they had a guy who won them 6 Super Bowls. So
yeah.
It's just weird because like we've gone from the Patriots are the team in football to now it's kind of like, not to say that everyone's forgot about that, but it's almost like I don't even think of the Patriots like that anymore.
Yeah, me neither right now. But
they did that.
If Belichick continues to coach, and then McDaniels will probably take over for him, you know, and go from there. So, moving on to a little bit of a surprising game, not from my standpoint because this was one of my picks that was an upset of the week, but the Bengals go to Pittsburgh and beat the Steelers 24-10, which to me makes me think was the Raiders went over the Steelers that good. You know, I mean, I know they played the Bills tough, but after that, they've lost 2 games to teams that were predicted not to do very well, but they are doing well. On the Cincinnati side, Joe Burrow only incompletes 4 passes, throws 3 touchdowns, even though one of his incompletes was an interception. Joe Mixon had 90 yards rushing. Jamar Chase, which he is right there right now with Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. 65 yards, 2 touchdowns. Taj Boyd, 36 yards and a touchdown, and they had a couple guys do a little bit there. On the defensive side, they had Logan Wilson, a white linebacker. That's right, a white linebacker. Had 2 interceptions, which is pretty cool. Sam Hubbard there had a sack. Hill, Sample, and Hendrickson had a sack. I mean, the Bengals played well. On the Steelers side, Ben Roethlisberger did what Steelers do when they're down, threw it a ton. Threw it 58 times for 318 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Harris had 40 yards rushing, 14 catches for 102 yards. That is just crazy. Claypool, like we talked about last week, turning into their number 1 receiver with 96 yards. Juju did get hurt. I do remember that. He was out of the game just because I had him on my bench in fantasy, so I saw that. He didn't do much before he got hurt. Johnson didn't do anything, but he might have not played. And then on the defensive side, Edmonds had an interception, and they had 0 sacks against the Cincinnati. 0 sacks, which is very surprising. But then again, I believe T.J. Watt did not play, so that's going to be big if you don't have your best pass rusher in there. Take it over from there, brother.
The biggest thing that I noticed in this game, and it's honestly, I know there's a comment in there that says Big Ben didn't have a bad game, and he did put up a bunch of yards. I mean, he did throw the ball 53 times, so of course he's going to put up a bunch of yards. He is done. Big Ben is absolutely 100% done. I would be very surprised if he makes it to the end of the year without.
He doesn't look into it.
He doesn't look, and I know obviously he's going to complete passes. I mean, he is an all-time great, and I don't think that the Steelers are going to bench him, but I think something's going to come along. He's old, right? He could get hurt. He could get sick. He could, whatever the case may be. Dwayne Haskins is going to play. Dwayne Haskins is eventually going to play. Maybe not hurt or sick, but maybe it is going to be he's hurt, right? He's got one of those injuries like whenever Mariota got benched for Tannehill, they were like, oh, Mariota's hurt. That's why Tannehill's playing. It's going to be like that where it's like we've got too much respect for this guy to bench him, but, oh, he's hurt or, oh, he's hurting, right? And so then – but I don't think that Big Ben's going to be playing next year. I think he's 100% done.
I think so too.
I don't think he's not playing next year. I think he'll eventually get benched this year. But on the other side, Joe Burrow looks really good despite throwing that pick on the very first drive of the game. And Jamar Chase, I don't even know what to say about this guy. I mean, preseason, training camp, guy was terrible. He was dropping passes. He basically had said the ball was hard to catch in the NFL because it doesn't have the stripes. Just automatically looked like a bust. He had the whole assault thing that had happened. And it was just like the downfall already started. Week 1, 2, and 3, the guy has absolutely dominated. He had 2 touchdown catches this past week. really big game and a really important win for Cincinnati. They're 2-1 right now, looking really, really good.
Yeah.
Not to say I wouldn't be surprised if this Cincinnati team made the playoffs, but if they keep this thing rolling and they make a push, they could end up being in the playoffs. I at least do think that they have a very, very, very bright future over in Cincinnati.
Matt J. Evans asked how many years are left on Big Ben's contract. I'm not sure, but I think they're doing like a year-to-year thing with him.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Because every year they're teasing retirement with him.
Right.
So, but the thing is, they don't have anybody to, it'd be the quarterback.
They got Haskins, and Haskins looked pretty good in the preseason. And
They've got Rudolph as well. But
I thought Rudolph was going to be a lot better coming out of college. I thought he was going to take over for Ben, and he was going to be really good. But that year that Ben got hurt and he got the opportunity to play a little, he was rough.
Yeah, but you know what? That was also a team that, I don't know. It just seems to me like the Steelers just always come out, they always come out and they play just flat for a couple games, and then they come out and start pushing. I don't know. I just think that there's something to it with the way that they do it, but I also think that it's not going to be the smartest thing to do forever. But then again, who knows? But I do think that, in my opinion, the team looks flat. Ben Roethlisberger does not look like he wants to play.
Yeah,
he looks uninterested, and our RPZD Raider Joker says he can retire even though the contract is over.
Right.
Very true, but I think they have stuff in his contract because every year they're teasing it. Like, is this Ben's last year? Is this kind of like the Brett Favre thing? But
yeah,
I think it's time for. I think it's time.
I think he should play this year.
You think about it, and Eli's done. Phillip Rivers is done, and they got drafted the same year.
Yeah.
And they're all the same age, so it's like, okay, it's time to – he's got his rings. I think that he's, he's a Hall of Famer, so I don't think he's got much more to do.
Right.
And the team's getting younger, but we'll see what happens. But, good win for Cincinnati. That's a big win for them to move forward. Next game we got, the Colts go to Tennessee, and – the Colts have been very disappointing this year. They lose 16-25. Carson Wentz had 194 yards passing, nothing really to write home about. Jonathan Taylor had 64 yards rushing. Michael Pittman had 68 yards receiving. Hines, the running back, had 54 yards receiving. On the defensive side, you had Leonard had an interception. So did Moore. And looks like Okiriki. Well, that's a weird ass name. Okereke. Okiriki. He had 8 tackles and a sack. On the Tennessee side, Derrick Henry did what he was supposed to do. 113 yards rushing. Tannehill had a weird-ass game. He had 3 passing touchdowns and 2 interceptions. On the receiving side, Julio Jones had 47 yards. Oh, my God, this guy's name. Well, I tried to pronounce it earlier. Nick Westbrook Akinhi had 53 yards and a touchdown. McNichols had a touchdown. And on the defensive side, you had Landry had a sack, and so did Adeniji had 1.5 sacks. So nothing really, kind of a boring game as well. Tennessee did score 11 points in the fourth quarter to win it. So,
Yeah, as far as Derrick Henry goes, that guy is an absolute freak. He's an unstoppable force throughout the entire game. It looked like the Colts were having a really hard time just to get to the guy. He's obviously hard to bring down, but with how fast and elusive he is as well, it's also hard to get to that guy. Tannehill did okay despite throwing the picks. He does what Ryan Tannehill is expected to do. He just throws the few passes that he needs to make. I know Julio caught a pass that was pretty big. And it was a close first half. I think Indianapolis is not a bad team. The Colts are not a bad team whatsoever. They have a lot of talent. They've had a few rough games these first 3 games of the season. Last week, they had a really good opportunity to win if Wentz didn't get hurt. But with just how talented the AFC is, I mean, look at the AFC West. The best team in the AFC West is at the bottom of the poll in the AFC West. And I'm sorry to do that to the Raiders, Chargers, and Broncos, but let's be honest, the Chiefs are the best team in that division, and they're probably going to win it. But right now, they're at the bottom because that's how good that division is. You look at all the other divisions, it's like if they don't win the AFC South, which I do think that they still can, if they get on a good roll and the Titans start to fall off a little bit, I still think that they can win this division. But if they don't, the Colts aren't going to make the playoffs as a wild card. The big thing for them, more than anything, more than Carson Wentz staying healthy, more than their tough schedule, they have to finish drives and touchdowns. They absolutely have to finish drives and touchdowns. They kicked far too many field goals in this game, and if they would have finished those drives and tutters, they win this game. But they're just not doing that, and that's why the Colts aren't winning football games right now. And that's why, and that's why other teams are, is because when you finish drives and touchdowns, that helps you win games.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is that I really thought Carson Wentz was going to be able to turn it around here. With Frank Reich as his head coach, because he played so well for him as his offensive coordinator, and he just hasn't been there. Now, maybe they don't have the weapons, but, I mean, they got a good running back in Taylor. They've got a talented receiver in Pittman. I don't know. It's just maybe it's something different. I don't know. But, it's Tennessee – last week or week one, not very good, but since then they've been pretty good.
Right.
And the team
that's
they
why,
lost.
I don't think that the Colts are going to make the playoffs is because they're going to have to win the division, and the Titans are looking good right now. I don't think that the Titans are going to have a spot in this season where they lose a bunch of games. I just don't think that that's going to happen. I think that they're easily going to win this division now.
You would think so. Think so, but who knows? Only week 3, and we got 14 games to go, which is just crazy because it's going to be done before we want it to be done, know. Next game we got Washington goes to Buffalo, and just Washington, especially defensively, has been very disappointing. Heineke there had 202 yards, 212 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Gibson had 31 yards rushing, 73 yards receiving, so over 100 yards all-purpose and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin there, he had 62 yards receiving, and Logan Thomas had a receiving touchdown as well. Logan Thomas, very underrated tight end, in my opinion. Defensively, they were not great. They've been allowing a ton of points for a defense that was ranked very high before the season started. They had 0 sacks today. That defensive line had 0 sacks. That's just so disappointing to me. And they have a good defensive coach in Jack Del Rio.
Right.
They really do. On the Buffalo side, Josh Allen had 358 with 4 touchdowns, but also added another rushing touchdown. Zach Moss had 60 yards rushing, 31 yards receiving, and a rushing touchdown. That's right, all you fucking fantasy people that said, bench Moss. Because I did bench him. Cole Beasley had 11 catches for 98 yards. Emmanuel Sanders had 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Knox and, like I said, Zach Moss had receiving touchdowns as well. On the defensive side for Buffalo, Star Latulier had a sack, and Micah Hyde and Poyer there had interceptions for Buffalo. So take it over from there, Mike.
Buffalo looked really good in this game offensively. Emmanuel Sanders is really, really starting to get things going with Josh Allen. Had a couple really big catches. And honestly,
he was a sleeper to play in fantasy. I did say that. I didn't think he'd do as well as he.
Well, and a lot of these weapons looked really good in this game. Stephon Diggs did all right. Heineke didn't really look bad they were just totally outmatched in this game. Like you said, I'm very surprised by this Washington defense. If you were going to tell me that Washington was going to get blown out in this game, I was thinking it was going to be like 14-0 or 24-0. If there was going to be a blowout in this game, it was going to be because Washington did not score and Buffalo didn't score a lot of points. So I'm very surprised by the defense not being that good for the Washington football team. But Buffalo is looking really, really good, especially on the defense. Like you said, Micah Hyde did really good. Who was the other guy you said had a turnover in this game?
Poirier.
Yeah, he looked really good as well. Yeah, something like that. But, yeah, Buffalo is looking really good whenever it matters most. I think that they're easily going to take the AFC West this season. But Allen looked fine. Allen looked good. Heineke was fine, but other than that, I mean, Washington, really big letdown. I don't think that they have any shot of winning this division, especially because Dallas is going to have a really good – I think if Dallas wins tonight, and I'm not sure what the score is right now, but if Dallas wins tonight –
7-7.
Oh, it's 7-7? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they can get a win tonight, they can put themselves, honestly, momentum-wise, in the driver's seat to win the division. Even though it's only week 3, if they can win this week, they can really establish themselves as the top dog.
I mean, you said it all. I mean, Washington has been a big disappointment, and Buffalo has kind of turned it around since that week 1 loss. Josh Allen has turned it up and is, he's still in the MVP conversation. Only week 3, but yeah, that they need to talk about that defense for Washington because it's something where you've got 4 first-round picks on your starting defensive line,
right?
And you're not getting any pressure. Like, come on, can't be letting a guy get 358 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's just not, And I don't think the Bills' offensive line is
right. No sacks, not even one sack. That's what's crazy to me, honestly.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens because they got to turn it around. Because I still think that division is wide open with 14 games to go. But if Dallas gets a 2 or 3 game lead, then it's over.
Yeah.
So.
And I think Dallas is the best team there anyway. So.
What's that?
I said I already think Dallas is the best team in that division anyway. So.
I mean, from that right now, yeah, for sure. Right now, we've got not the surprise of the week, but maybe the game of the week. The Chargers go into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs 30-24. Justin Herbert had himself a great game with 281 yards.
The GOAT.
4 passing touchdowns. Eckler had 55 yards rushing. Keenan Allen had 4 yards rushing and a touchdown. Mike Williams, who's having a killer beginning to his year, had 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. Eckler and Keenan Allen also had receiving touchdowns. On the defensive side, Bosa had a sack. White had a sack. Tranquil had a sack. Samuel had an interception as well as Gilman. And a very costly interception at the end of the game, which kind of was very un-Mahomes-like. But on the Chiefs side, Andy Reid did go to the hospital, but I guess he's doing good. Just a little dehydrated there. Yeah. I would say maybe he's not used to losing, and he just fainted. Mahomes had 260 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Edwards-Helaire had 100 yards rushing. Kelsey had 100 yards receiving. Tyreek had 50 yards receiving. Hardman had 33 yards receiving and a touchdown. Edwards-Helaire and Fortson. Fortson's a young tight end, but Edwards-Helaire and Fortson had a receiving touchdown each. And on the defensive side, Dana had a sack, and there were no interceptions. So, yeah, I mean, the Chargers beat the Chiefs 30-24 off a Pat Mahomes mistake, no less.
So, before I get into what I wanted to say, RPZD Joker says, so earlier Mykel said that the Chiefs are the best in the AFC West. How is that when they just lost? Wondering his thoughts. So, the reason I think that they're the best team in the AFC, and maybe not the AFC where it says, okay, he says AFC West. The reason I think that they are the best team in the AFC West is they just have that much talent and the coaching is there. They've just had a really rough start to the season, and they've also played really good teams. Week 1, they beat the Browns in a great game. Week 2, they just barely lost to the Ravens, who is a really good football team, in a great game. And then this past weekend, the Chargers, although they might not be one of the better teams in the AFC, I still think that they're a really, really good team. And Justin Herbert had a great game. So I do think that they are the best team in the AFC West, though. Even though they have the worst record in the conference, they've had a really tough schedule these first 3 games and just a really tough go-ahead. But I still do think that they are the best. But as far as this game goes, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he's great, right? Arguably the best quarterback in the league. In many eyes, easily the best quarterback in the league. But these past 2 weeks, the Chiefs have lost because he tries to be Superman. He tries to do way too much. He tries to do the whole no look across body pass thing. He tries to shovel it across the field. He tries to go on his back foot into triple coverage to make a big play. That's why the Chiefs have lost these past 2 games, is because Patrick Mahomes is trying to be Superman. Herbert absolutely balled out, arguably the best performance of the week overall. And the big thing about the Raiders is that they are really firing on all cylinders. They're doing great on offense. Their defense is okay. Mike Williams had 2 really key drops in this game on that last drive. Now, he did make up for it by catching the game-winning pass. But other than that, the Chargers look really solid, easily a playoff team in my eyes. They just need to limit the mistakes, and they can win this division if they limit those mistakes. But we're just going to have to see. Great game from Herbert. Good game from Mahomes. He just has to stop trying to be Superman. Just has to stop doing that.
Agreed. That one interception was because he's doing that no-look bullshit.
Yeah.
That he does. Where, I mean, that stuff, I get it. It was nice when he did it, but it's sooner or later it's going to cost your team.
Well, the one that he did, the guy dropped it. He dropped the pass, but he kind of – so it's not like he looked this way like all the way and threw it across the field. It was really like just he barely didn't look, right? And the receiver, I guess, wasn't expecting it, and it went behind him, so he was like this.
Yeah.
And bounced out of his hands because it was behind him, and it was a pick. So that was the one earlier, and then later in the game, whenever he threw it into triple coverage, that's what's really failing the Chiefs right now. Is their best player is honestly failing them right now just by trying to be the Superman in the end of the game.
That's all it is. He's trying too much. He's got to just trust his teammates. I hope he continues to play like shit. I hope he continues to make mistakes, because that would say that, they're the chance that the Raiders have a chance to make the wild card if they continue to, because they've got a 2-game lead on the Chiefs right now.
Right.
They've got a 1-game lead on the Chargers.
And the Chiefs are very, very beatable. I say that they're the best in that division, but that division honestly is very wide open because how beatable the Chiefs are and how good that the Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos have gotten off on, or how good of a start that they've gotten off to.
RPZD Raiders says, I would say the AFC North, the AFC West are the best divisions in the AFC. I agree. Chevy Silver Raiders says, is it possible for the Chargers, Chiefs, and Raiders to be in the playoffs? Yes.
And the Broncos too.
Yeah, there's 3 wild cards now. All 4 teams could make it. And then Matthew J. Evans says Chargers will make the playoffs, but they won't win the Super Bowl, which is, I agree with that. They're not there yet, but they're really close. Let me tell you, they are close. Moving on from that game, we've got Arizona going to Jacksonville, and a little bit of interesting news before we get into the game, that Jacksonville did trade away their number 1 pick last year,
yeah.
Henderson, to the Panthers. Like, what the hell? Like, I don't know what this team – I don't know. Whatever.
That's really confusing to me.
Yeah, it's weird. So on the stat side, on Arizona's side, Kyler Murray had 316 yards and an interception. James Conner had 2 rushing touchdowns. Kyler Murray did have a rushing touchdown. A.J. Green and Christian Kirk had 100-plus yards receiving. Hopkins only had 21 yards receiving, and they still won. I like that A.J. Green is getting better and better. Let's see here. On the defensive side, you had Murphy had 2 interceptions, and then Hicks and Golden had sacks each. Golden sacks. There used to be a firm company, a financial company, I believe. Trevor Lawrence, once again, had more interceptions than he did touchdowns. He had 1 passing touchdown, 2 interceptions. James Robinson finally has a breakout game, 88 yards and a touchdown. DJ Chark had a receiving touchdown. Marvin Jones was their leading receiver with 62 yards. Miles Jack, again, leading the team in tackles. And then Wingard had an interception for Jacksonville. And I hate to say it just because Jacksonville on paper looks better, but they're just playing for the number 1 pick again.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Jacksonville goes and Trevor Lawrence goes, like I said, every single week, I think Trevor Lawrence at his moments looks really, really good. At moments, Trevor Lawrence is throwing the ball really good, and you say, yeah, there's a reason this guy went number 1 overall. And then there's times where you go, how is this guy playing football still? Rondale Moore for the Arizona Cardinals is easily becoming a star just right in front of our eyes. He's looked really good. And Arizona has so many weapons. Like you said, Hopkins had a pretty iffy game. Not the greatest game, not a bad game either, though. But everyone else kind of stepped up. Christian Kirk has stepped up this year. Rondale Moore has stepped up big time this year. And A.J. Green, who a lot of people thought this guy's career was dead, he has stepped up, and he has looked really good. Both defenses were shining in this first half. It was a really close first half, but the Cardinals just absolutely dominated this game in the second half. And the Jags, even though they got blown out, I think that they're continuing to look just a fraction better every single week. Even though it's kind of sad when you get blown out 31-19 and you looked better. So I don't know. The Jaguars aren't good. I don't know why they would trade C.J. Henderson away. I think he's a good corner. There's really no gain in that because who they got for him really wasn't that big of a piece. And they traded him to the Panthers, which I think is huge for them because I think that team is the most underrated team in football, who, by the way, got a win on Thursday, 24-9 over the Houston Texans. But the Panthers are looking good. They're about to get Henderson now to up that defense, who's already really, really good. But, yeah, the Cardinals looking really good. They haven't really played that many great teams yet, but they're looking good overall. And Kyler Murray, just another really good game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Cardinals are for real. They beat the Titans. They beat the Vikings, who went and beat Seattle this week. And they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars like they should have. Murray is right there with Stafford for the MVP, I believe, and Derek Carr.
I agree.
And
Carr's having a season, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, but overall, it's just I wish the Jaguars would just be better. I hate to say that, but I just wish they would be better because it's
sad how bad that they are.
It is.
Some teams that whenever they're bad, it's kind of funny and laughable, like the Jets, because they're in New York, they're a big city team, and when they suck, it's kind of laughable. But the Jaguars, they're so bad that you honestly feel for them sometimes.
A little bit, yeah, and it's just they weren't going to beat the Cardinals, and they kind of made a little bit of a game of it, but it sucks to see that, with Lawrence, everyone thought he was like the next Andrew Luck, and I knew he wasn't, but he's not looking crazy bad, but Arizona is just humming along, and that division looks so much better every week with them, 49ers, Seahawks, and the Rams. It's just crazy.
Well, Peyton Manning, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, his first 5 years in the league looked a lot like Jameis Winston's, where he had more picks than touchdowns, but both of those numbers were really, really high. So they kept Peyton Manning, obviously, on the Colts, and then he ended up winning a Super Bowl for him a few years later. So I'm not gonna sit here and say that the Jaguars are gonna give up on this Lawrence guy if he has a couple really bad seasons. But as of right now, no, he hasn't looked like the man. And I just think he's young, and a lot of these rookie quarterbacks are having really rough seasons. And all of them.
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing.
Who had his first start, he didn't look great yesterday. So
he looks shell-shocked. And actually, it's funny. Let's segue into that game, and then we'll get into our games there, the Packers game and the Raiders game. But there's not much to say here. The Bears had a net offense of 1 yard.
Yeah.
1 yard, ladies and gentlemen.
I love it. I love it.
Chicago, Justin Fields was sacked 9 times. Montgomery had 34 yards rushing. Robinson had 27 yards receiving. On the defensive side, Quinn had 1.5 sacks. Khalil Mack had 2 sacks. Mario Edwards Jr. had a sack. There was a lot of sacks in this game. I believe Baker was sacked 4 times and Fields was sacked 9 times. On the Cleveland, no, I'm sorry, Mayfield was sacked 5 times. So not much to write home about that offensive line either. Baker Mayfield had 246 and a touchdown. Chubb had 84 yards rushing. Hunt had 81 yards rushing and a touchdown. And Hooper there had a receiving touchdown. Odell Beckham came back from injury today to have 77 yards receiving. On the defensive side, the big news was Myles Garrett with 4.5 sacks in this game. Jadeveon Clowney had 2 sacks. I believe Tack McKinley had a sack as well. Just the Bears look terrible, and that's all I can say about that. But then again, the Bears offense looked terrible. The defense was not that bad. I mean, for them to get 5 sacks in a blowout is crazy.
Yeah. Well, before I start, I just want to let everyone know that from where I'm sitting, it's 7:52, and the Bears still suck. The Bears offense was absolutely terrible in this game. The Browns were all over Justin Fields. Myles Garrett was literally living inside of his head throughout this entire game. OBJ was back and had a fairly decent game. Wasn't a superstar, really wasn't bad. The Bears did put the pressure on Baker early and often, and it worked. I mean, they put the pressure on Baker, sacked him a few times, but the Browns still managed to put up 26 points and win this game. Overall, Hunt and Chubb doing what they do, getting a bunch of yards, and other receivers are stepping up for the Browns with Landry being out. But, with the Browns, this is what you're going to get. Like I said with the Washington football team earlier, when you expect a blowout with the Browns, it's going to be them winning with not a lot of points because like they do on offense, they take a lot of the clock, they run the ball a lot, and they don't score a ton of points, but they also keep the ball out of the other team's hands, and they have a really good defense. So this is just what you're going to expect from the Browns the entire rest of the season. The Bears got to figure it out. I really wish Justin Fields, and as a Packers fan, obviously I love to see the Bears fail, but I like Justin Fields. I want him to have a pretty successful NFL career. If I'm the Bears, I wouldn't have played him. I would have played Nick Foles, and I know the fans want to see Justin Fields. But if you give this guy time to develop and figure things out, I think he's going to end up being a really good NFL quarterback. Just did not look the part or do very good at all in this game. But Baker Mayfield didn't do terrible. Got sacked a few times. Is what it is. But not a bad game for the Browns other than that one little blip. The 5 sacks in this game?
The Browns had 9 sacks. The Bears had 5, so 14 altogether. That's bad.
Other than getting sacked 5 times, the Browns had a pretty good game, offensive and defensively. So
yeah. All right, let's move on to the Sunday Night Football game, which was awesome. The Packers beat the 49ers with a last-second field goal by Mason Crosby. I believe it was a 51-yarder. Aaron Rodgers had 261 yards and 2 touchdowns. Aaron Jones had 82 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Adams had 12 catches for 132 yards and a touchdown. Valdez-Scanlon had a great catch in the end zone for his touchdown there. That was just unreal how well he did that. Jair Alexander got himself a pick. Rashard Gary and Preston Smith had sacks for the Packers there. For the 49ers, Jimmy G had himself a decent game. Left his team out there to win. He left the field with them winning with 35 seconds to go. 257, 2 pass touchdowns, and 1 interception. Trey Sermon had a rushing touchdown. George Kittle had 92 yards receiving. Debo Samuel 52. Kyle Juszczyk and Brandon Ayuk had receiving touchdowns. And then on the defensive side, I believe they didn't. Yeah, it looks like they didn't have any sacks. No, they had one. I'm sorry, they were sacked. They had one sack, and I believe it was Bosa. My computer kind of shut down for a second, but yeah, the Packers had a fantastic game overall, and I couldn't be happier. I watched the whole game with Brader, and he was excited. He wasn't excited when they scored, but like I told him, I said, hey. They gave what's this face, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, 35 seconds with one of the best. I'm sorry, Armstead had the sack for the 49ers, and one of the best receivers in the league. So I said, you'll be just fine. So go ahead, Packers fan, tell us what you think.
Great game, by the way. It was a absolute thriller, classic game. Aaron Rodgers was slinging the ball all over the field this game. MVS did have a great catch in the back of the end zone. Aaron Rodgers put that one on the money. Devontae Adams had a good game too. I wish he didn't get hit like the way that he did down the field on that one play. I know you saw that. That was pretty bad. And I'm not going to sit here and say we were playing against the refs. The 49ers definitely did get a heavy percentage of those calls. Jimmy G had a good game. The 49ers defense was good. They were fine to a certain extent. Not as good as I expected them going into this game. I predicted the 49ers to win at home because the Packers often play bad in California, especially against good teams like the 49ers. But man, oh man, I'm watching this game. I had some buddies come over. I was sitting with my friend Nate. 49ers are driving, and he's like, uh-oh, it's not looking good.
Were you guys cuddling? No.
Not this game. Not during
me and Brad weren't either. No.
Not during the Packers games or the Titans games because that's his team. They're driving down the field. He's like, it's not looking good for y'all. It's not looking good for y'all. And I'm like, I hope they score faster. Like, give us more time. They scored 37 seconds left. He looks at me. He's smiling. He's like, because as of right now, I've got 9 predictions right, and I try to get 10 a week. So I'm praying the Cowboys win so I can get 10 predictions right. He was like, hey, at least you got 10 predictions right because the 49ers are about to win this game. Da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, we'll see. And he said, we'll see. It's 37 seconds left and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, we'll see. We've got 12 at quarterback. And then I remember because they showed Aaron Rodgers on the TV with the score down by 2, or sorry, it was down by 1. Down by 1, they show Aaron Rodgers, 37 seconds left. I look him dead in the face. I say, with number 12 under center, we are going to win this game. We are not going to lose this game. He throws that first completion over the middle. I'm screaming at the TV. I'm like, go, go, go. Spike it, spike it, spike it. They spike it. Next play, incompletion. 3rd down and 10. And he's like, nah, this thing is over. Another huge completion on that play. We spike it again. Mason Crosby goes up there. And I'm like sitting here like, please make it, please make it. But in my mind, I'm going, after that drive, those 2 plays by Aaron Rodgers, those 2 amazing passes to Devontae Adams, Mason Crosby teeing this thing up, yeah. I knew it was ball game. Never in doubt when the most talented quarterback in the NFL's history is under center. Never in doubt with number 12 playing quarterback for the green and gold. Man, what a game. Go Pat.
No, it was a lot of fun to watch. There's really not much more to say. It was just a lot of fun to watch, and the one thing that I think people need to realize is that week 1 might have just been weird. Yeah, just like a weird thing that happened. But
I think we're gonna look at this
like the Bills losing to the Steelers in week 1. It's just that's the NFL. You're gonna lose the team. I mean, when Kansas City made it to the Super Bowl, they only lost to one team, and that was the Raiders. I mean, it's not like, anybody can win at any certain time.
Right.
So it's just, I just was really excited for Mason Crosby because I know that he's had some really tough times.
Yeah.
And he's been great recently. But, it's just, it was one of the best Sunday night games I've ever seen.
I think that at the end of the year, the Packers are going to win the NFC North. The NFC North is so weak. There's no chance that we don't win the NFC North. At the end of this season, we're going to be looking at the Green Bay Packers and saying, wow, week 1, how did they get blown out in this game? Because I think at the end of this year, we're going to easily ride away with the NFC North title. And I think we could finish at the top of the NFC if we keep this thing rolling. Good win for the Packers.
That's all it is, man. It's a good win. That's all it is. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more you could say. It was a good win. The team did what they're supposed to do. Mason Crosby just, it's just a great game overall. Moving on to another game that was crazy. I don't know if it was great, but it was just crazy. The Raiders win to go to 3-0 against the Dolphins, 31-28 in overtime. I don't think we've seen many games where both teams have kicked field goals and then another field goal wins it. I don't think we've seen that very often. So, on the statistics wise, Miami, Jacoby Brissett had 215 yards and 37 yards rushing with a touchdown. Myles Gaskin had 65 yards rushing. Brown had a rushing touchdown. And then Mike Gesicki and Jalen Waddle both had 10-plus catches, but for only Gesicki had it for 86 yards. Waddle had 12 catches for 58 yards. That's less than like 4 yards a catch.
Yeah,
which is just But and Will Fuller had a huge 2-point conversion catch. Christian Wilkins had a sack. Byron Jones had 2. Roberts had a nice pick 6 on a total miscommunication because, Derek Carr just doesn't throw interceptions like that. But, defensively, the Dolphins, they were okay. They weren't that bad at all. On the Raiders side, Derek Carr continues to be playing at an MVP caliber. He has 386 yards and 2 touchdowns and interception. Peyton Barber comes off of the bus pass, 111 yards and a touchdown. Kenyon Drake has been a disappointment in my opinion. Only 57 all-purpose yards. On the receiving side, listen, these 2 rookies are starting to become really good. Henry Ruggs and Brian Edwards are looking better and better every week. Hunter Renfrow is a guy that I think deserves an extension very soon because someone else can pick it. I'm just nervous that he might leave, but then again, he seems like that type of guy that he's more about the team than he is the paycheck. And listen, Darren Waller did not have a great game because he didn't need to. He only had 55 yards receiving, but he made catches when he needed to make them.
Right.
On the defensive side, Carl Nassib and Solomon Thomas had half a sack each, along with Quentin Jefferson having 1 sack, and Denzel Perryman has 14 total tackles, which was really cool to see. But overall, listen, this game was your blood pressure could go up, your blood pressure could go down, but I am more proud of the Raiders because they were down 14-0 and they didn't quit. That's a lot to be down in the NFL. Even though it was early on, that's a lot to be down, and for them to come back after, the pick 6 and then letting that long touchdown run happen, the Raiders picked it back up and ended up being at one point, I believe it was 25-14. The only problem was in the fucking fourth quarter, they just fell apart with about 8 minutes to go and let them score a field goal and then a rushing touchdown with 2 seconds to go. And then in overtime, Carlson hits a 38-yarder. Then Sanders had a 50-yarder, and then Carlson had a 22-yarder. I just think that Miami at the end of the game, end of overtime, was just spent on defense because they just let Peyton Barber run all over them. And Brian Edwards had a great catch to be good there. And yes, Jake Morrow says Casey Hayward did have a safety Yeah. Listen, the Raiders, it was not a pretty game. If they play like this against the Chargers on Monday Night Football, Chargers would probably win 40-1 to 20. But listen, they're 3-0 right now, 2 ahead of the Chiefs, which is huge. Derek Carr is in the talks right now. Um, you know, Derek Carr is in the MVP race right now, and I think he's still the leading passer in the league with over. I think he's over 1,000 yards already after 3 games, which is just crazy. It's good to see the running game get going, but I think the biggest thing for me on offense is that Henry Ruggs is starting to become a good receiver, and Bryan Edwards is starting to become the receiver that everyone saw in college. He was just hurt so much, but I mean, you think about the receiving tree now for Derek Carr. It's okay. So Waller's number 1 technically, then Renfro, then Edwards, then Ruggs. And then, you got Zay Jones. And then after that, you got Willie Snead, who's, there as a backup. But
right.
I just see in Kenyon Drake out of the backfield, team's got a lot of potential to go forward now. I didn't think it would mesh as quick as it did. But, it's just it's good to see it. But on defense, I love everybody on defense except for one player, honestly, and that's Damon Arnett. Yeah. Damon Arnett is a liability. Other than that, everyone else I think is playing pretty good. Corey Littleton, who I usually am very hard on, had a good game as well. So let's see what happens going forward. But right now, the Raiders are 3-0. Everyone should be happy. I know a lot of the Raiders fans were chiming in that they were upset on my video that they didn't play well, but who gives a shit? Good teams win to win.
A win is a win is a win is a win.
Yeah, I mean it's not at the end of the season. It's not going to matter.
Right.
If that game could be the game that makes us win the division. You never know.
Well, as far as the Raiders go, it wasn't really a hot start for the Raiders. They got down 14-0. Obviously, that safety kind of turned things around. And Jacoby Brissett looked much better for the Dolphins compared to last week whenever he was kind of forced into the game. But once Carr woke up in that second quarter, I don't think it was ever in doubt. Obviously, the Raiders fans watching that game had some different emotions. Me with no dog in the fight. Obviously, I was going through that game watching it, and it was a really good game. If Miami doesn't get it together soon, obviously Tua Tagovailoa is out. If they don't get it together soon, I don't know what to say because this team isn't bad. It's not an untalented team. They just need to win games. It's a lot like the Colts, man. They just need to start winning games. It's not a bad team, and it was a hell of an effort by Miami, by the way.
Absolutely
to overtime. They just ran out of juice. Kind of like you said, the defense got tired, and they ran out of juice.
Yeah, and then so for Raiders fans out there, I just wanted to just throw these stats at you. So Derek Carr right now is averaging 400 yards a game. He's got 1,203 yards times divided by 3 is 400. And the big thing is that Henry Ruggs is 14th in the league right now in receiving yards, which is just, I think he has almost the same amount of receiving yards he had last year as he does this year, which is just
already
very exciting, going forward. So overall, the teams have got to be excited. The Raiders fans have got to be excited, but they got to do it week by week because it's just, that's what it is, week by week. So, but anyway, we're 3-0. Defense and offense, everything needs work. That's just football.
Right.
So I understand where people are coming from, but at the end of the day, the Raiders are 3-0. Just smile about it, Raider Nation. Say,
move on to next week.
Who the fuck would think after playing the Ravens, Steelers, and Dolphins? 2 of those teams were playoff teams, and they'd be 3-0. And in each game, in 2 of the games, they were down by 14.
Yep.
Both the Ravens and
win in overtime.
Yeah, and came back to win. That's just crazy. And, and honestly, if Carr continues to play like this, the problem is if he doesn't make the playoffs, they won't name him MVP.
Right.
But if he continues to play like this, I mean, I don't know.
It'd be hard not to give him the MVP.
Yeah. But moving on to another AFC West team that's undefeated, the Broncos defeat the Jets 26-0. Listen, the Jets are horrible. 180 yards passing and 2 interceptions for Wilson. Their leading rusher had 24 yards. Their leading receiver had 41 yards. I feel so bad for Corey Davis. I really do, because he's a really good player, in my opinion, and he is just, yeah, yeah. On the defensive side, there was a couple of guys that had good games. I mean, Quentin Williams had 1.5 sacks. There was no interceptions, but yeah, I guess that's the only one. Quentin Williams had 1.5 sacks, but yeah, as Matthew J. Evans said, the Jets are trash. And on the Broncos side, they are 3-0, but they've beaten the Jaguars, the Jets, and I forgot the other team, but they are not good teams. Bridgewater had 235 passing. Melvin Gordon and the rookie Williams both had receiving touchdowns. Patrick was their leading receiver with 98 yards. Next closest was Sutton with 37. On the defensive side, Von Miller had himself a sack. So did Harris. So did Reed. And A.J. Johnson had 2 sacks. And on the interception side, Simmons and Stearns had interceptions. So I don't know what you could say about this game, but go ahead.
Yeah, nothing really much to say about this game. I do think that the Broncos are really good, and they haven't played anybody really worth a damn yet. But I think that they are a good team. Their defense is great. Their offense, not really dominant in this game, but they did play pretty good. Wilson he just has so far to go. He's not that guy right now. And I don't think that Zach Wilson ever is going to end up being that guy. But Teddy Bridgewater doing just what he has to do to get the win in this game for the Denver Broncos. Yeah, like you said, nothing really much to say in this game. The Broncos won. They blew them out 26-0, but they didn't look like they dominated in this game. That's the biggest thing, is that obviously the Broncos are going to beat the crappy teams. They're that kind of good team. But can they dominate against teams like the Jets? And they didn't really dominate. They put up a lot of points. They stopped them on defense, or on the defensive side. They stopped the Jets' offense, but they didn't really dominate this game.
Yeah, no, and you're right. And I know it's against the Jets, so you really can't do much analysis about it, but they won. And that's all it is.
Well, these AFC West games are going to be really, really good. I think every single matchup, and it's going to be – each team has 6 matchups, because they play every team 2 times. So these AFC West matchups, they're going to be good all season, and they're going to be important all season too.
Yeah, a little bit of Monday Night Football update. The Dallas is up 14-7, but now they are also in Philadelphia territory again. So not much of a surprise there. Not much of a surprise there at all. Seattle loses to Minnesota, but it was in Minnesota, so I thought it was in Seattle for some reason, but it wasn't. It was in Minnesota, which is weird for a afternoon game, but whatever. Russell Wilson had 298 and a touchdown. Chris Carson had 80 yards and a touchdown. DK Metcalf had 107 and a touchdown. Lockett had 31 yards rushing. On the defensive side, Taylor had a sack. And I believe, let's see here, there was no interceptions on the Seattle side. On the Minnesota side, Kirk Cousins only had 8 incompletions, which is weird for him. 323 with 3 touchdowns. Madison played pretty good for playing in front of Dalvin Cook, who was hurt. He had 112 yards rushing. Jefferson had himself a game again. 118 yards and a touchdown. Conklin has become a great for Irv Smith. He's been able to take over for that role as the new tight end for them. 70 yards and a touchdown. And then Adam Thielen once again scores another touchdown. For
in his last 18 games, he has a touchdown. Or sorry, he has 18 touchdowns in his last 18 games.
That's awesome. I'm so glad I got him in fantasy. Kendricks had himself a sack, as well as Everson Griffin, and there were no interceptions. But hey, Minnesota surprises and beat Seattle, who are now down to 1-2. So they need to turn around a little bit before they start to lose as well.
Yeah.
They start to lose because the Rams and the 49ers are probably going to start taking over. And if they don't have, they got to start winning, or Seattle's going to, and same thing with Minnesota. Minnesota's going to start finishing games, or else the Packers, are going to start to
just run
take
away
off.
with it. But yeah, I mean, you look at this game, and the Hawks actually looked pretty good in the first half. This was a good first half for Seattle. And DK got it going early. Russell Wilson didn't look bad, but in the second half, they just absolutely folded. Kirk Cousins quietly going off this season, also having, honestly, an MVP-like season in these first 3 games. But in that second half, man, the Vikes just had every single bit of control and momentum that they could have. I mean, Adam Thielen, like you said, going off, having a good game. But, yeah, I mean, the Seahawks are a good team. They are also kind of like the Chiefs right now in the sense of they're a good team. They've also played some pretty good teams early in this season. So we're just going to have to see whenever it comes to the Seahawks. I mean, you look at that division, the Rams are 3-0 now. They look really, really good. I think they're going to win that division. It's going to come down to them and the 49ers, and one of those teams is going to end up getting one of those 3 wild card spots. The other, I don't think will, because I just think that there's other teams in other divisions that are going to be able to get that wild card. Maybe the Vikings. The Vikings can probably get one of those 3 wild card games, or some other team in the NFC. I mean, the Panthers are probably going to get one of those wild card spots if the Bucks win the division. And then the other one is probably going to go to San Fran or Seattle. They're going to have to start winning some games here.
Yeah, no, that's going to be very interesting to see, because Seattle might be the odd man out with how good the NFC. Because you think about it, the NFC West, or the NFC, is going to have more than likely Green Bay.
Yep.
With Dallas, with
the Rams.
No, well, I was going to get to that, but who's the other division?
It would be the NFC South.
So that would probably the Bucks.
Right.
So then you got one guy from the AFC West, or the NFC West. Then you've got 3 spots for technically Minnesota, Seattle, LA, San Francisco, Arizona, and
right. I forgot Arizona's 3-0 right now.
Yeah, and so it's going to be
they're above Seattle right now.
The race for that division is going to be crazy and a lot of fun to watch.
Like the AFC West, every one of those games is going to be important, and it's going to be entertaining.
But the one thing is that Seattle has always come back to win it.
Yep.
We've always come back to win it or be in the wild card. So we might have the same instance we had last year, where we had Seattle playing the Rams in the wild card, or Seattle playing San Francisco in the wild card. But if I had to guess, I would think that 2 to 3 teams are going to come out of the NFC West, and maybe 2 teams out of the NFC North, and maybe 2 out of the NFC South. So someone's going to get left out. That's going to be a damn good team. And that sucks, but that's just the way it is. It's can't have every team in the playoffs. There's a reason for that. So, moving on to 2 other NFC teams, a little bit of a surprise here. The Rams at home, though, beat the Buccaneers 34-24. Tom Brady had 432 yards passing and a touchdown. He was also their leading receiver at 14 yards. That's one of the main, I think, problems with Tampa Bay, is they don't really have much of a running game. They have talented running backs, but they have talented running backs, but don't, they just, I don't know. Just to me, they don't seem like a great running team. On the passing side, Evans had 106 yards receiving. Godwin had 74. Gronk had 55. Giovanni Bernard did have a receiving touchdown, which was really good. On the defensive side, nobody really played. I mean, Golston had a sack, but there wasn't any interception. The defense was kind of flat yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, that's because the Rams are playing out of this world right now. Stafford had 343 and 4 touchdowns. Michelle had 67 yards receiving. Deshaun Jackson came out of nowhere with 120 and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp continues to play great, 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. Higbee had 40 yards and a touchdown. Young had a sack. Aaron Donald had a sack. Leonard Floyd had a sack. And there were no interceptions on this. thing here. But man, oh man, the Dallas Cowboys are also up now, 20-0, 20-7. But man, oh man, the Rams, ladies and gentlemen, the Rams. I guess they needed that gunslinger to get better. I guess Goff just maybe he was too conservative for that team. You know.
I just want to say that in my predictions this week, I did predictions with two people. I did predictions with my boss. I let him mark up on my notepad, his prediction for the game. We agreed on every single game except for one. I did. I had a guest on the channel. He agreed with every single pick except for one. This was the only game that I disagreed with pretty much everyone I had talked to. Everybody and their mom picked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this game, but I picked the Rams to get the upset win at home, and that's exactly what had happened. So I was excited that the Rams won this game. As far as it actually goes, Brady did play really good in this loss. The Rams defense just came up huge in this game. They were great, and they honestly stopped a lot of drives that were really important. Stafford is still balling, one of the best players in the league right now, or having one of the best seasons, obviously, right now in these first 3 weeks. Cooper Kupp doing great. Overall, was a lot better of a game in the first few quarters than it was at the end, but still a good game. The most hyped up game of the week, obviously.
You can see why the Rams. You can see why the Rams gave draft picks up. I mean, I understand it now. I do understand it now.
And they're good. This is a team that I think can win the Super Bowl. They are really good.
They finally, I mean, they were before when they went to the Super Bowl, which was probably one of the most boring Super Bowls we had in a long time with the Rams, but they just couldn't get any scoring done. And maybe it was because of Jared Goff's conservative type of play. But Stafford right now, I think, is number one in the MVP voting. I would think that Goff would be two, not Goff. Murray would probably be two, and then like Derek Carr would be three or something like that. But still, hats off to the Rams. Hats off to McVay for getting better overall for the team. And sky's the limit for the Rams. If they can go out there and beat the defending Super Bowl champions with ease, then and good for Stafford to have a nice rejuvenation to his career. If he continues to play this way, gets to a Super Bowl, I think Stafford ends up being in the Hall of Famer after this.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Get to the Super Bowl, yeah, I really think so.
100%.
Yeah. Well, that's the game here. That's the end of the show here. Like I said, we're at 20-7 right now in Monday Night Football. Zeke is having a good game. He's got 2 touchdowns already. And, of course, I am playing him in fantasy. I am up by 60 points right now, but I'm shaking a little bit because, it's just I didn't think Zeke would play this well. Can't be too upset with this week of football. It was a lot of fun. Both our teams won. I would have to say that right now the Rams look like one of the best teams in the NFC, and in the AFC, I guess it's the Chargers. I don't know who's the best team right now in the AFC. Yeah. It's kind of wide open there, and it's wide open on the other side. I mean, before it was the Bucs, but now with the Rams beating the Bucs, we'll see what happens. But thank you guys so much for watching. Do us a favor while you're watching, or while you're watching the recording of this, remember to like this video, subscribe to our channels. I am at Bigger and Brighter Sports. He is at Mykel Sports at the bottom of your screen. And then Mike, tell them where else you can find him.
Yeah, guys, you can also, as always, follow me on Instagram at Mykel Sports _YouTube. My Twitter is at Mykel Sports. You can see all those tweets I was talking about whenever the Packers got this big dub over the San Francisco 49ers. So make sure to follow me on those platforms. And, it's a good show. And can't wait for next week. I think the Packers have the Steelers. So looking to be 3-1 at the end of next week.
And it will be a Tuesday show because the Raiders are playing on Monday night. So it would be a Tuesday show. And I want to give a good shout-out to guys that were in the chat. Jake Morrow, RPZD Joker, Charlie Freak, and let's see who else we got here. We got Edgar V was in here. We appreciate all you guys hanging out with us. Nate S. We love Nate S. Jake Morrow. And the guy who kept it all together, Mr. Matthew J. Evans, Ricky Seven as well, but Mr. Matthew J. Evans, who had a ton of comments there. He started becoming
a lot of support.
biggest fan. So really appreciate you, Matthew. And like I said, another great week of football. We got great fans, so I'm excited for next week's show as well. So signing off here. We'll see you guys later. Enjoy the rest of Monday Night Football, and we'll see you guys next week.
Go Packers.
Go Raiders, go.